All right, let the word go forth. We need the Senate to come to order.
Legislative council was not done, but the bill came out. Came out in a way that the House was. So it moves the balance quickly.
That's just want to keep it moving. That's good. Thanks for getting it out. All right, time for convening having arrived. The Senate will come to order. Would ask that unauthorized visitors exit chamber at this time. Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the distinguished Rules Committee Chairman, the Senator from the 53rd.
Mr. President, I feel like the Maytag repairman. I'm lonely in this chamber. But 30 years ago today in history, the senator from the 44th District bought her first Mercedes. And it was a beautiful car like the one she's driving today.
Wow.
The journal's been read and found to be correct.
Well, very good. Is there objection dispensing with the reading of the journal? Reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to confirmation of journal? Chair is none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 1137 by Representatives Cook of the 18th and others, a bill to be entitled an action amendment, not consolidating the offices of tax receiver and tax collector of Haralson County.
Slow go.
House Bill 1138 by Representative Cook of the 18th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to provide a homestead exemption from Haralson.
Slow go.
House Bill 1139 by Representative Jasper of the 11th and others, a bill to be entitled.
Slow go.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 838 be passed by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Bethel, the 54th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 939 do pass, House Bill 862 do pass by substitute, House Bill 911 do pass by substitute, House Bill 935 do pass, House Bill 936 do pass by substitute, House Bill 987 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Hill, the 32nd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 941 do pass by substitute, House Bill 205 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Stone on the 23rd. Mr. President, the Senate Rules Committee has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Resolution 1098 do pass, Senate Resolution 1175 do pass, respectively submitted by Senator Mullis, the 53rd. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 483 do pass, respectively submitted by Senator Gannon, the 47th. Mr. President, Senate State and Local Governmental Operations General Committee has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 514 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Albers, the 56th. Mr. President, Senate State and Local Governmental Operations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 439 do pass, Senate Bill 440 do pass, House Bill 1012 do pass, House Bill 1097 do pass, House Bill 1106 do pass, House Bill 1114 do pass, House Bill 1116 do pass, House Bill 1118 do pass, House Bill 1122 do pass, House Bill 1128 do pass, House Bill 1067 do pass, House Bill 1125 do pass, House Bill 1126 do pass, respectively submitted by Senator Albers of the 56th. Mr. President, Senate Ethics Committee has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 808 do pass by substitute, House Resolution 1113 do pass by substitute, House Bill 980 do pass by substitute, House Bill 772 do pass, respectively submitted by Senator Burke of the 11th. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 927 do pass, House Bill 1025 do pass by substitute, House Bill 1060 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator McCune, 29th. Mr. President, Senate Special Judiciary Committee has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 171 do pass, respectively submitted by Senator Thompson of the 5th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following legislation instructing me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 937 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Hill, the 32nd. Mr. President, that completes the reports.
Secretary will read bills for the second time.
Senate Resolution 1098 by Senator Vanessa, the 43rd, and other. Senate Crime Study Committee create. Senate Resolution 1175 by Senator Hunterman, the 45th, Georgia Abuser Registry. Senate Study Committee create. House Bill 171 by Senator Hightower, Representative Hightower, the 68th, and others. Laws and statutes, revised provisions relating to effect and enforcement of foreign laws provisions. House Bill 205 by Representative Rice of the 95th, and others. Driver's licenses require a driver who refused blood alcohol concentration testing to install and maintain ignition and interlock devices on vehicle provisions. House Bill 483 by Representative Buckner of the 137th, and others. State symbol shoal bass as official state native sport fish designate. House Bill 514 by Representative Bruce of the 61st, and others. South Fulton City of Fulton County incorporate. House Bill 772 by Representative Clark of the 147th, and others. Elections advance voting with regard to Saturday voting. Revised period of time. House Bill 808 by Representative Willard of the 51st, and others. Court Judicial Qualifications Commission create. House Bill 838 by Representative Blackman of the 146th, and others. Insurance carriers that sell certain health plans through an agent shall compensate such agent a minimum of 5% of collected premiums. Provide. House Bill 862 by Representative Knight of the 130th, and others. Ad valorem tax, homestead exemption, clarify definition of disabled veteran. House Bill 911 by Representative Duncan of the 26th, and other. Sales and use tax, agricultural machinery and equipment, provide exemption. House Bill 927 by Representative Coomer of the 14th, and others. Appellate Jurisdiction Reform Act of 2016 enact. House Bill 987 by Representative McCall of the 33rd, and others. Ad valorem tax, property, change certain provisions, change certain definitions. House Bill 935 by Representative Harold of the 106th, and others. Ad valorem tax, properties eligible for a Freeport exemption, add certain fulfillment centers. House Bill 936 by Representative Harold of the 106th, and others. Income tax, wages necessary to qualify for a job tax credit, clarify certain terms. House Bill 937 by Representative Harold, 106, and other. Sales and use tax exemption for projects of regional significance. Change sunset provision. House Bill 939 by Representative Price, the 48th, and others. Revenue taxation set off debt collection by the Administrative Office of Courts, revised terms and procedures. House Bill 941 by Representative Golick of the 40th, and others. Courts review incidents involving a peace officer's use of deadly force that results in death or serious bodily injury. Provide for procedure. House Bill 980 by Representative Powell, 32nd, and others. Municipal elections. Reopening qualifications under certain conditions. Provide. House Bill 1060 by Representative Jasper, the 11th, and other. Crimes and offenses. Carrying possession of firearms. Confirm that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. House Resolution 1113 by Representative Willard of the 51st. Judicial Qualifications Commission create. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes Senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous.
I tell you what,
consent.
let's go ahead. Let's just suspend morning roll call. Make that motion, Senator.
I so move that we suspend the morning roll call, Mr. President.
All right. The senator from the 15th has asked unanimous consent to suspend the morning roll call. Is there objection? Without objection, the morning roll call will be suspended. It's time for our morning devotion. Time for our morning devotion. Would ask that all senators please take your seats. Cease all audible conversation at this time as we prepare for our morning devotion. Doorkeepers, if you would, secure the chamber at this time. It is now my distinct honor to call upon the senator from the 39th for the purpose of leading us in our pledge and introducing our chaplain of the day. Senator.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Good morning. I am glad to be able to present to you Reverend Anthony A.W. Motley, who was born in Tuskegee, Alabama. He received his early training at Whitney Elementary School, Plateau, Alabama, and Woodward High School, Cincinnati, Ohio. His college career began in Ohio at the Ohio State University in Columbus, but he matriculated at Morehouse College, majoring in religion and minoring in philosophy. He received his bachelor's degree in 1980 and has completed his studies at the Interdenominational Theological Center for a Master's of Art in Christian Education. Reverend Motley comes from a deeply religious family from which the Lord has called many ministers. He received Christ at the age of 8 and was called into the ministry when he was 18 years of age. His father, Dr. D.L. Motley Sr., the renowned and respected pastor emeritus of the Peace Baptist Church in Cincinnati, licensed and ordained his son in 1971 and 73, respectively. Reverend Motley has served the following churches: Mount Sinai Baptist Church, Tallapoosa, Georgia; Wares Grove Baptist Church, Cedartown, Georgia; and Flat Rock Baptist Church in Rome, Georgia. Reverend Motley accepted the pastorship of the Lindsay Street Baptist Church on September 7, 1980. He is father to daughter Shanae Motley and granddaughter Sinai Motley. He is deeply involved in community activities seeking to improve the conditions of the socially and economically oppressed and the spiritually impoverished wherever he goes, but in particular, the English Avenue neighborhood west of Northside Drive. He is active with many organizations, including Concerned Black Clergy of Metro Atlanta, the New Era State Convention of Georgia, where he has served as first vice president, the Progressive Baptist Convention, the American Baptist Convention, past president of the Atlanta Baptist Minister Union, and board member of the Vine City Housing Ministry, and most notably as the chairman of the English Avenue Community Development Corporation. English Avenue, Vine City, and those neighborhoods west of Northside Drive face many challenges, and Reverend Motley is in the leadership of making those neighborhoods better. He is also a former adjunct professor at Morris Brown College. We both served on the faculty of that school, and Reverend Motley is much sought after as a speaker, lecturer, teacher, and preacher. Reverend Motley is a humble, soft-spoken gentleman whose very presence commands respect. Under his leadership, the congregation of Lindsay Street has completed a worship center that seats upwards of 1,000 people. And I will say that there were some who wanted the church to move out to the suburbs, to move out of the inner city. Reverend Motley said, no, we'll stay here and serve the people in our community. If there is one word to describe my friend Reverend Motley, He is a visionary. I present to you Reverend A.W. Motley.
My good friend, Senator Ford, let me thank you for your kind invitation and your courage that you show in speaking a word for the Lord and for the least of God's children. My longtime friend, thank you for this moment. To Governor Deal, Speaker, Senators Davenport, who has been so kind across the years, and others of the Legislative Black Caucus, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, showing mercy is what I'd like to share with you this morning. Showing mercy. Showing the same mercy to others that you yearn and hope that others will show to you. It's not hard for me to understand why Senator John McCain is against waterboarding and other forms of torture. It's because he was tortured himself. It's easy to abuse power when others are at your mercy. But when you become the victim yourself, and you find yourself at the mercy of those to whom you showed no mercy, but who now are exercising the same power over you, when the shoe is now on the other foot because the demographics have changed and now you're the underdog, well, you then begin to understand what it means to show the same mercy to others that you want others to show you. We are swiftly moving toward the execution date of March 31st, 2016, when the state of Georgia will put Joshua Bishop to death. But before the state, that's you ladies and gentlemen, will put him to death, lest we forget Gethsemane on March 25th, 2016, Good Friday, in remembrance of the one who from that English Avenue type place known as Nazareth, that nothing good was supposed to ever come from, we also recall the state-sponsored execution, even perhaps lynching, of the one who to some of us is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Let me assure you that in his famous Sermon on the Mount, where he replaces the old word for the old world with a new word for a new world, with a series of you have heard and have adhered to in the past, but now what I say overrides what you've previously read and heard and to which you have adhered. In that sermon and in the mercy Jesus showed to the woman, the religious leaders claimed they'd caught her in the very act of adultery. By stopping that execution in progress, Jesus announced the end of that barbaric Old Testament legislation of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth form of revenge, killing, and forever replaced it with that everlasting mercy King David talked about, you know, the kind we sing about, my brothers and sisters, in our worship services. When we think about the horrendous sins we ourselves have committed, you know that beloved old hymn of the church, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, blind, but now I see. Jesus said, you have heard in the Old Testament an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I'm replacing that with this. If you do not forgive others their sins, neither will your heavenly Father forgive you. Love your enemies. Do good to them that curse you. Love is the fulfillment of the law. Our Bible says, well, doesn't that same unconditional love and mercy extend to all the Joshua bishops, past, present, and future? Does not the same blood of Jesus that cleansed a wretched slave trader and wretches like you and me also cleanse those on death row? Governor Pilate at least tried to offer clemency to Jesus until the Pharisaic lobbyists informed him that it wouldn't be politically expedient for him to do that. I hope you and Governor Deal will consider the words, the will and the way of the man from Galilee. The only way Jesus can be associated with the death penalty is to acknowledge that he was killed by it. And we don't want to be on the wrong side of that decision, do we? You know how the execution and progress of that woman ended, don't you? Jesus established the moral criteria for all times. Until his kingdom comes on earth as it is in heaven, he or she who is not guilty of ever committing a single sin among you, let him or her place the noose around that black man's neck or the neck of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, or place a gun in the hands of church members to execute their fellow church members, and in the hands of college students and become an accomplice to the murder of other college students, and all for just 30 pieces of silver from the gun lobby. What does it profit to gain a seat in the Senate for a few days and lose your soul for all eternity? Each of those legislators dropped their stones because only Jesus had the moral authority to carry out the execution. And to her he said, "Woman, do any who previously condemned you remain?" "None, Lord." She said to him, "Well, neither do I condemn you," because unconditional love always responds, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, because his mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so." Let us pray. Jesus, you said, "By this shall all men know," all men and women, gay and straight, Jew and Muslim, Hindu and Buddhist, Republican and Democrat, African and European and Native and Latin American, atheist and agnostic. "By this shall all men and women know that we are your disciples. Not if we say we are born again Christians, or that we've been saved to go to heaven when we die. But you said, by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you love one another right here on earth. Thank you for allowing us to understand that they shall know us by our love. In Jesus' name, let us all say, amen.
Are there any unanimous consents? Any senator wishing to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes Senator on the 34th on a point of personal privilege.
Good morning. How are you? I'd like to commend you special presentations. So far, you did a good job filling in.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I rise to thank you, Mr. President, for extending us, the Democratic side, for the heavy debate we had on gun carry. The other day, we were trying to make some points of safety on campuses, and I did make the point of letting it be known that not only am I married to a military-trained policeman, my son was a Georgia Tech policeman for 10 years. So it was very problematic for me, and you graced us with extended time to talk about that important issue. And I am eternally grateful that the governor actually heard some of those concerns and are now talking about the kids that are on campus with the dual enrollment program, as well as the daycare centers that are on the campus. Mr. President, thank you for allowing us that additional time to make those points known, and thank you again for this opportunity this morning. I yield the will.
Any other senator before we move forward? You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions that's before you. Is there objection? Without objection, the consent calendar of privileged resolutions are therefore adopted. We have another one to read, and Secretary will do so.
Senate Resolution 1188 by Senator James of the 35th and others, a resolution recognizing Claudio Roberto de Boris Allen Carr and welcoming him to the United States and for other purposes.
Is there objection to adoption of the privileged resolution? Chair is none. The privileged resolution is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 14th.
When do you make that motion?
As soon as he recognizes me. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the General Assembly here in the Senate. I rise today to acknowledge people that take the time to serve us during this entire session. We recognize a lot of people down here, and today I'd rise to just recognize some of the people that make sure we're able to focus. Our Georgia State Patrol Post 50, and I just quickly read through their names, just acknowledge we appreciate their service to us. Captain Louis Young, Lieutenant Jim Wicker, Sergeant Renee Wooten Perry, Corporal Edward Kazana, Corporal Brad Thompson, Jeff Davidson, Stacy Forrest, Keith Gundy, Eric Smith, Jason Klein, Mike Diggs, Joe Cass, Carlos Searcy, Davey Smith, Scotty Smith, Dusty Starling, Ian Kane, Kerry Gay, Gerald McIntyre, Stan Smith, Brent Williams, Claude Ackley, Rodney Barlett, and Michael Brown. If we can just acknowledge their service to us while we're down here, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Mr. Secretary, are there any objections filed on any of the local bills?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee on the state and local governmental operations which fair will pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the local consent calendar will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the local consent calendar, the yeas are 42 and the nays are 0, and all the bills on the local consent calendar are therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the following bills and resolutions be engrossed. House Bill 991, House Bill 726, House Bill 899, and House Bill 238. All are finance or tax bills.
Senators moving to engross all of the tax bills. Is there objection? There is objection. Senator from the 41st. You wish to debate? Nope. Senator has moved that House Bill 991, House Bill 726, House Bill 899, House Bill 238, all tax bills being engrossed. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the motion by the majority leader, the yeas are 39, the nays are 13, and the bills will be engrossed. Now, Chair recognizes Senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 438 be moved off the table and we suspend the rules for immediate consideration of this local bill for the senator from the 19th.
Senate Bill 438 by Senator Williams of the 19th, a bill to be entitled an act to repeal the amendment to the Constitution of Georgia providing that the county officers of Telfair County should be ineligible to hold office under certain conditions, to provide for legislative intent, to provide for a referendum with respect to the effectiveness of the foregoing, to provide for contingent effective dates, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes.
Is there objection? It's a local bill. Without objection, the bill will be removed from the table and taken up at this time. We just read the bill. Chair recognizes Senator on the 56 to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a local bill for Telfair County for the senator from the 19th. It was just by accident pushed forward one day too early, so this is just allowing it to move forward, move over to the House. Ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection granted report of committee which fair will pass the bill? Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put, or the objection? Chairs none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. Glad to have a very special group in the gallery with us, and to recognize them, I call upon the senator from the 49th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is my specialty, Senator. I'd like to recognize the Buford Lanier Women's Club in the gallery. If y'all give them a warm Senate welcome. Thank you, Mr. President. They all drive Hondas.
On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0. This bill having C-Rex constitutional majority is therefore adopted. We're moving on to the general calendar. The Secretary will read House Bill 884.
House Bill 884 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 56 of Title 33 of the OCG relating to risk-based capital level so as to revise the definition of company action level event to include a health organization with certain total adjusted capital levels, provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, and the Committee of the Senate on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Bethel of the 54th. Mr. President, the Insurance and Labor Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 884, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCG related to insurance so as to eliminate the foreign and alien insurer deposit requirement of securities eligible for the investment of capital funds in certain amounts at the discretion of the Commissioner, to revise the definition of capital account level event to include a health organization with certain total adjusted capital levels, should provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members of the Senate. I'm here to present HB 884. HB 884 is actually the combination of two House bills. One of these bills was a department bill. The other is a bill that was brought forward that has the full support of the Department of Insurance. Section 1 amends the code to modernize the way that the deposit requirements in the Department of Insurance. Section 2 is for NAIC accreditation. We're adding health organization be included under the existing risk-based capital reporting statute. If there are no questions, I will yield the well.
There's a question. Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st for a question.
Senator, yield.
I yield.
So you're changing the amounts. You know, how were funds less than 10,000 handled before? And on, you know, line 28, you're also talking about deposits to exceed 100,000. Would you explain how those dynamics are different now under these changes?
This gives the insurance commissioner more latitude. This only deals with alien and foreign insurers. These are not people that are domestic, that are located within the state and that have been created by our state laws. So this gives our insurance commissioner more latitude to do that. One thing this will do, we actually hold about 1,500 very small deposits, and this is actually costing us money to administer these deposits. This allows us, there's actually already, states already cooperate with us, and they work together under NAIC rules, so our policyholders are protected, so that the deposits for these foreign and alien insurers just really aren't necessary. And because of the size of them, they're really providing very little protection to Georgia policyholders.
Further yield, the Senator?
I yield.
So by alien or foreign, none of these companies are like Alabama. You're talking about offshore foreign countries, all of them by the definition of alien.
The definition of an alien insurer is actually an insurer that's formed under the laws of a country other than the United States. That's per our code. A foreign insurer is an insurance company that's been formed under the laws of another state in the country, in our country.
Thank you, Senator.
I yield the well.
Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Now, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree on a Report of Committee which will pass the bill? Chairs none. Report of Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chairs none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question is on the passage of the bill. All of those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, MC Rex Constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 65.
There's a sub in
Senator
there.
from the 14th will stand by.
House Bill 65 by Representative Caldwell, the 20th, and others, a bill to be entitled and to amend Chapter 2, Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to require local boards of education and certain charter schools to hold at least 2 public meetings on the proposed annual operating budget, to require that a summary of the proposed and adopted annual operating budget be posted on the internet, to require that the detailed annual operating budget be made available upon request, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute, respectfully submitted by Senator Tippins of the 37th.
It's down to budget. It's good.
Mr. President, Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute House Bill 65, a bill to be entitled and action in Chapter 2, Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to require local boards of education and certain charter schools to hold at least 2 public meetings on the proposed annual operating budget and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 14th. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. This is a very simple and straightforward bill that strengthens transparency. I bring before you HB 65. HB 65 is very simple. It passed the Senate Education Department 3 times in a row unanimously. Currently, every local government, other than education, must have open public hearings before they pass their budget. This is all this bill does, is ask that there's 2 open public hearings before they pass their budget. If there's no questions, I yield it well, Mr. President. He's trying to freeze me.
Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Now, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree on the report of committee which will pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and this bill I'm Rex constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 736. Senator from the 1st will stand by.
House Bill 736 by Representatives Atwood of the 179th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-86 of the OCGA relating to special license plates promoting certain beneficial projects and supporting certain worthy agencies, funds, or nonprofit corporations, so as to provide for a special license plate promoting marine habitat conservation, to provide for related matters, to require a two-thirds majority vote for passage in accordance with constitutional requirements, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute, respectfully submitted by Senator Harper the 7th. Mr. President, the Senate Public Safety Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 736, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to prestige, license plates, and special plates for certain persons and vehicles, so as to provide for a special license plate for women, veterans, to provide for definitions, to provide for the issuance of a special license plate to the spouse of an eligible person under certain circumstances, to provide for special license plates for the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc. and Hampton University, to provide for a special license plate to support the Law Enforcement Division of the Department of Natural Resources and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Sims of the 12th and Watson of the 1st offer the following amendment number 1 to the substitute to House Bill 736 by inserting after line 123 the words, a special license plate honoring Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, Inc. The funds raised by the sale of this special license plate shall be distributed to the Zeta National Education Fund, Inc., replacing the word 2 on line 155 with the word 3, inserting on line 6, to provide for special license plates for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, Inc. Mr. President, Senator Watson of the 1st and Harper of the 7th offer the following amendment number 2 to the Senate Public Safety Committee substitute to House Bill 736 by deleting lines 121 through 123 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: special license plate honoring Hampton University. The funds raised by the sale of this special license plate shall be distributed to the Hampton University Atlanta Chapter Alumni Association. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator in the 1st. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor to present the House Bill 736. We did have the Senate bill that came out of this version, but this turned into a bill that did have other licenses attached to this. And the one that I was interested in was the Marine Conservation License Plate, with the funds going to the Coastal Resources Division of the Department of Natural Resources for habitat conservation. There are 2 amendments. One is to clarify Hampton University, which is a school in Virginia. So this amendment makes sure that the funds that were collected by the license plate actually go to an Atlanta chapter, so it would go to Georgia citizens. And then the other amendment is by a senator from the 12th to allow her fraternity on a license plate also. And this is the license plate bill for 2016, and if there are no questions, I ask your favorable consideration, Mr. President. No questions. Thank you.
Senator from the 12th, you wish to speak to your amendment? Sorry? The Second Amendment is not out. All right. Let's put the Second Amendment up on the screen if we can, please. Okay, we'll do that. We're going to put the Second Amendment up, but the First Amendment, authored by the senator from the 12th, is there objection? Without objection, the amendment will be adopted. Now the question is on amendment number 2. Let's get it up on the screen, and then we'll take a vote. The amendment is now out. Amendment number 2, is there objection? Without objection, amendment number 2 will be adopted. Now, does any other senator, or the questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended, is there objection? Without objection, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Now, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection agreed on the Report of Committee, which fair will pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put, or the objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 42nd. Senator from the 42nd, you have the doctor of the day. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 2. This bill, MC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. We would like to present the doctor of the day, and to do so, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. It's my honor and privilege to present to you the Doctor of the Day. Dr. Carmen Sultan is currently a third-year pediatric emergency fellow at Emory. She completed her pediatrics residency at Emory School of Medicine and earned her medical degree from Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee. She is a native of DeKalb County and resides in Decatur. Please join me in thanking and welcoming Dr. Sultan.
Thank you so much. My name is Carmen Sultan. I'm a senior pediatrics emergency fellow at Emory. I am a resident of DeKalb County. I grew up in DeKalb County. I'm a graduate of Chamblee High School. I went to Emory University. I did my residency and my fellowship training at Emory. And I want to thank you so much for all of the work that you do for Georgia's children. And I hope that we can continue to fight and advocate for Georgia's children as they continue to need trauma services, surgical services, and acute care services on our Eggleston and our Scottish Rite and our Hugh Spalding campuses. Georgia's children continue to need all that we can do for them. Thank you so much.
Awesome. That was well done. Well said. Really good. Let's do a picture together. Chair, or Secretary will read House Resolution 1312.
House Resolution 1312 by Representative Sims of the 123rd and others, a resolution authorizing the change of use of certain property located in Houston County currently dedicated as a heritage preserve, authorizing the granting of a non-exclusive easement for the construction, operation, and maintenance of facilities and ingresses and egresses in, on, over, under, upon, across, or through certain state-owned real property located in Houston County to provide an effective date to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State Institutions and Property recommends that this resolution do pass, but be submitted by Senator Harbison on the 15th. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 51st. Present the bill.
Easy bill. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a bill for the Department of Transportation. It simply grants an easement to the DOT from the Department of Natural Resources for part of the Heritage Preserve, which is on the edge of the Heritage Preserve on Highway 96 in Houston County. The purpose of this easement is for them to construct a 4-lane road that's already a 2-lane. They're just going to widen it. The average width of the road is going to go from 29 feet wide to 60 feet in width. That's all the area they're asking for. The length of the road is 2,256 feet through the edge of the preserve. So if there's no questions, Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 41st for a question.
Senator, how, if you'll yield, how much is the total reserve? You're only taking a few feet. I was just wondering how much remains of the reserve.
I think this property is in the hundreds of acres, maybe thousands. I don't have that number, but it's a large piece of land. This is on the very edge. If you don't have this on your desk, I'll bring it back to you, Senator, but it's on the very edge of the property, and there's already a state route there. We're just going to widen that road, and it connects highways I-16 over to I-75. So that's the purpose of the expansion.
No further questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Is there objection to agree and report of committee which failed to pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 32nd will stand by. 32nd, stand by. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. This bill, MC Rex Constitutional Majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 1037.
House Bill 1037 by Representative Clark of the 101st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2, Title 31 of the OCG related to Department of Community Health so as to expand the certified nurse aid registry to nurse aides who provide services in private residences, provide for inquiries and complaints, to provide that the registry be easily located on the department's website, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Unterman to the 45th. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 32nd. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1037 is a simple measure. It does one thing. It includes nurse aides in a list of those that we're going to continue to start tracking. Current law provides that a nurse registry be established by the Department of Community Health. This bill simply expands that nurse registry to include nurse aides so that we can track what's going on in temporary residences and in private homes. And it also provides a better method, a better transparency, so that people can submit inquiries as well as submit complaints if there are issues. With that, I'll yield the well if there are no questions.
No questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree on the report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are the objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 45th will stand by. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and this bill having C-Rex constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 229.
House Bill 229 by Representative Strickland of the 111th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 19 of the OCG relating to domestic relations so as to expand grandparent rights to visitation and intervention to great-grandparents and siblings of parents to conform cross-references relating to adoption to provide for related matters to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted by Senator Unterman of the 45th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 229, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 19 of the OCGA relating to domestic relations so as to change provisions relating to a grandparent's right to intervention in certain domestic relations cases, to allow for intervention by great-grandparents and siblings of parents, to provide for definitions, to provide for an evidentiary standard, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator of the 45th present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I bring before you House Bill 229. As you know, we've talked about grandparents for many years now and how important they are and how they are helping families to make do in situations that are oftentimes poor situations. House bill helps grandparents that are raising a child to be awarded visitation with that child. They intervene in an existing legal action where custody is at issue between parents, as in a divorce or in legitimation cases. They file an original action for visitation when the parents of the child are not living together. This is a great thing, not only for grandparents, great-grandparents, and aunts and uncles. It's an issue that we've worked on in this Senate body for quite a few years. There are many grandparents in the state of Georgia that are rejoicing over this particular bill becoming a law. In addition to that, we have attached Senate Bill 3, which is strengthening and supporting families. We have seen that bill on many other bills. We'll continue to see it in the next 3 days. And the House is working on Senate Bill 3, hopefully today. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions, or I'll yield the well.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you very much. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Question now is on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Now, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree on the report of committee which failed pass the bill. Chair is none. The report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 0, and this bill having City Records Constitution majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 100.
House Bill 100 by Representative Dixon of the 6th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCG relating to elementary and secondary education so as to change provisions relating to the date by which a child must reach a certain age in order to be eligible for enrollment in certain educational programs, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Effectively submitted by Senator Tippins of the 37th. Mr. President, the Senate Education and Youth Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 100, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-167 of the OCGA relating to funding for direct institutional media and staff development costs so as to establish an expenditure control for direct institutional costs for virtual instruction provided to students enrolled in a local school system residing in another local school system, provide for related matters, repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th present the bill.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, it's my pleasure to bring you House Bill 100. As is listed on lines 2, 3, and 4, this bill establishes an expenditure control for direct instructional costs for virtual education provided to students enrolled in a local school system and residing in another local school district. This bill brings conformity to academic achievement expectations. It's a good bill. Vote green. Mr. President, if there's no questions, I yield the will.
Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Granted, report of committee which fair will pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Is there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 53, nays are 0. This bill having City Records Constitution majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes senator from the 4th.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I want to take just a moment to recognize an outstanding young man from Effingham County who's in the gallery today. We're recognizing Isaiah Royal from Effingham County High School, who just won his 3rd consecutive Quad 5A consecutive wrestling title. He's a fine young man. He's here today with his coach Hank Heller and coach Nico Giugino. If I'd ask them to stand and let's recognize them. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Let me just tell you one quote from his high school principal, not his coach, but his principal. He says, "I love to brag on this young man because he's not going to brag on himself." This is Yancey Ford, the high school principal. We're really proud of Isaiah. He's the type of student we enjoy walking the halls. He leads by example. He works extremely hard in the classroom. He is a role model for other students. So that kind of athletic achievement, along with being a good person, is certainly what we're trying to advance here in the Senate. I just wanted you to recognize this young man. Congratulations.
Awesome. Glad to have you with us. Thank you very much. You know how to pin folks on the mat. You might make a good state senator one day, I'll tell you. Secretary will read House Bill 73.
House Bill 73 by Representative Turner, the 21st, and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 45-2-1 of the OCG relating to persons ineligible to hold office, vacation of office, and validity of acts performed while in office, so as to authorize counties and municipalities to provide by local law for district durational residency requirements, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee on the Senate on State and Local Governmental Operations recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Albers of the 56th. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very simple bill that allows for local control. So through local, city, or county municipal charter change, we can assure that there is a 12-month residency for those running for office. So there are no questions. I will yield the will.
No questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which fail pass the bill. Okay. No, that's no problem. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1. This bill, Item C, records constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 737.
House Bill 737 by Representative Caldwell, the 131st, a bill to be entitled an act to amend the OCGA so as to revise, modernize, correct errors or omissions in and reenact the statutory portion of said code as amended and furtherance of the work of the Code Revision Commission, to repeal portions of said code or acts and amendment therefore which have become obsolete, have been declared to be unconstitutional, or have been preempted or superseded by subsequent laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Heath of the 31st. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th. Present the bill. 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my privilege to bring to you today House Bill 737. House Bill 737 is the result of the annual work of the Code Revision Commission. The Code Revision Commission spends most of the interim looking at the legislation that has been passed in the previous year. There are always, despite all of our best efforts, typographical errors, grammatical errors, punctuation missing, punctuation that does not belong, or language that has just been inadvertently added or is inadvertently missing. And so The only thing that I will draw to your attention, because people who have been closely reading this legislation may be wondering if we are trying to do something with regard to MARTA, you'll see on pages 9, 10, and 11 some language regarding MARTA. That is language that should have been in code long ago that had never been added, but it has no impact on any current present debate. It's language that frankly was approved years ago but never found its way into the code. Other than that, the entirety of the bill you will find is simply as I've described, either adding or deleting language that was unintentionally added or omitted. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I will yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 31st for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, Senator.
I think you were just speaking about the MARTA language that's in the bill. That is code. It's just always appeared in the local acts, and every time that anyone sought to review that, they had to go find the local act. This just moves it into the official code so that it's more readily available.
That is exactly correct. The Senator, you stated it better than I did. It is not anything new. It is most certainly not a tax.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection granted? Report of committee which fail will pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0. This bill having C-Rex constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 920. Senator from the 54th will stand by.
House Bill 920 by Representatives Kelly of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to regulation of hospitals and related institutions so as to restrict civil actions against passive investors in nursing homes and intermediate care homes, to provide for definitions, to provide for procedure, to provide for insurance or self-insurance trust as a condition precedent to obtaining or maintaining a permit to operate a nursing home or intermediate care facility, to provide for related matters, to repeal convicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted by Senator Unterman of the 45th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 920. A bill to be entitled Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCG relating to regulation of hospitals and related institutions so as to restrict civil actions against certain parties involved in nursing homes and intermediate care homes. Provide for definitions, provide for procedure, provide for insurance or self-insurance trust as a condition precedent to maintaining or obtaining a permit to operate a nursing home or intermediate care home, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I bring to you House Bill 920. The way we deal with aged and infirmed is of importance to each and every one of us. And one of the places where those individuals end up in Georgia frequently is in our nursing homes. House Bill 920 does not change responsibilities or liabilities for anyone involved. It is about definitions and processes. It provides a process for an improperly named defendant to early on provide notice that I am not an appropriate defendant. I need to be removed and released from this litigation, and the plaintiff has to honor that if they feel it's appropriate. If they feel that that's inappropriate and they challenge that notice, then the plaintiff bears the benefit of having their attorney's fees recovered. If you try to hold somebody in the litigation and they were right and they should have been released, you bear their responsibility. The idea is to have the appropriate parties in interest responsible, and folks who are not responsible other than the level of their investment excluded. And that's why you see the definition of an excluded individual. They're excluded from liability beyond the limits of their investment. So it's a definitions bill and a process bill. Mr. President, I would yield for questions. If there are none, I'd ask favorable consideration and yield the will.
Senator from the 40th, you have a question. Senator from the 28th, you have a question. You are recognized for that question now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
At the tail end of this bill, lines 95 on, it talks about liability insurance coverages mandated.
Yes, sir.
Could you speak to that? And is there a place where those levels of coverage are required?
Thank you, Senator. I apologize. I should have mentioned that. This is the first time in state history that we are placing a requirement on nursing homes to have insurance if they are going to take advantage of the provisions of this process. If they're not, they don't have to. But they're going to take advantage of this section. They have to have insurance. It does not require limits at this time. There's a negotiated process to get here. It requires them to have coverage in place, but there's not a limits component.
Thanks, Senator.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Do what? That's fine. Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to be excused from voting HB 920 pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1-8D.
Senator from 36, are you wishing to, is there objection? Without objection, Senator will be excused. Senator from 36, you wish to ask a question?
Thank you, Mr.
Senator
President.
Yield.
Yes, the Senator will yield.
Senator yields.
Thank you, Senator, for returning to the well. I was a little late pushing my button. Could you clarify for us in this bill, given that it insulates investors from being sued in the case of seeking damages for a mishap with a nursing home patient, for example, is there any other industry in Georgia that insulates these people in this way?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I would offer that every industry in Georgia insulates investors in this way. And to be clear, it doesn't create any new insulation. If you look at the definitional section that really starts there in section 1 on page 1, what it says is an investor has the responsibility up to the limits of their investment. That is generally the rule in the corporate world. You cannot come after my personal assets if I am not engaged in the operation. So if you look at how we've defined the excluded parties, it means people who are not, and you look at those paragraphs 1 through 7 at the bottom of page 1, if you are not participating and doing those functions, then you are not liable in the personal sense. I cannot pursue your personal assets. Obviously, your ownership interest, your investment in the business operation are exposed at the business level.
At the business level. I raise that question because we know that the patients in nursing homes are some of our most vulnerable Georgians, fragile, oftentimes unable to make decisions for themselves. And we had to create a national ombudsman system to have some oversight on what's happening in nursing homes, exactly because these patients are not likely to be able to protect themselves should the need arise. And so they're very vulnerable and really deserving of a watchful eye over their best interests and their health and the conditions. And there have been some bad actors in this industry.
And Senator, I would agree with everything you said. There's no question. I think as many as 75% of nursing home residents in Georgia are Medicaid population, so we know almost by definition they're vulnerable. We need to make sure that there is a watchful eye being kept over these individuals. What I would reiterate, however, is lawyers call this piercing the corporate veil. That is to say, beyond. So let's say that you or I are investors in Acme, beverage company, a company that makes beverages, and we simply own stock. Then Acme turns out to be a bad product and it's hurting people in the marketplace. You and I may lose 100% of our investment, but a plaintiff would not pursue us unless we had some sort of operational control or direction in how Acme Beverage Company was operated. That's the general rule today. This does not change who is or is not liable. It creates a process for, in the early stages of litigation, a truly disjoined owner. In other words, an owner that doesn't provide management, operation, administrative services, is not responsible for hiring or firing, is not responsible for setting the budget, is not responsible for staffing or staffing level decisions, is not responsible for any direct care or treatment, is not responsible for any of the decisions associated with care or treatment, or adopting any policies or procedures. That is to say, your only connection to the business is you have made an investment. Then we are saying that person, if named as a defendant, can come to the plaintiff and say, excuse me, I'm an improper defendant. I know I may lose all of my investment because this was managed poorly, but I didn't do any of these functions at this particular facility. And so the plaintiff, if they review, this is during discovery, mind you, if they review this and find, yes, that's correct, this individual is not an appropriate defendant because there's no reason to what they call pierce the corporate veil, reach through to their personal assets, then I dismiss them as a defendant.
You, the judge, dismiss them as a defendant.
Well, the plaintiff should dismiss them. The plaintiff should dismiss. If the plaintiff refuses to dismiss them, and that decision is later found to be frivolous, that is to say, there is no evidence that this person had any responsibilities like are listed at the bottom of page 1, then the plaintiff is responsible for that individual's cost. If, on the other hand, this defendant asserts this right to be excluded, this right to be let out, and later the court finds that that was an improper assertion, that they did perform these functions and therefore could be held personally liable, then the defendant bears those costs of litigation and the attorney's fees.
Just final question, if you would, and thank you for entertaining my inquiry. It seems that you're saying that these investors in this industry, the nursing home industry, are getting an additional level of verbiage in the law and product process and protocol in the law than investors in other industries in our state. Why would that be necessary, if I'm understanding you correctly?
I think because there is recognized, and I would point out that the Georgia Healthcare Association and the Georgia Trial Lawyers, the plaintiffs' bar, testified jointly in support of this resolution because there is, I think, a concern about a trend about some reckless litigators who are naming everybody they can name without regard to whether they should be legally responsible in this particular industry. On top of that, we, the state, have a unique interest in the nursing home industry in that as much as 75% of their population are Medicaid patients. So to a certain extent, it's an extension of the state, and anything that increases their overhead cost naturally is going to, over time, increase our exposure as a state to provide those services.
Thank you for entertaining my question.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator 23rd for a question. There are a number of questions that have now are available. So,
Will Senator yield?
I yield.
This does not change the substantive law.
It does not.
It just sets up procedure.
That is correct. As I tried to articulate, this does not change who is liable and what they're liable for. It creates a procedure for resolving early in the litigation before substantial expense is incurred as to who should be released and who should stay in.
And will you further yield?
I yield.
This procedure is only being applied to one industry because there's a particular problem with this type of frivolous litigation there.
And I think the problem is recognized by both plaintiffs' bar and defense bar alike. I agree.
But isn't it true that in the future, more generalized bills might be considered that would affect other industries?
I certainly think that's a possibility. To the extent we detect that improper parties are being joined to litigation on a routine or regular basis, it would be incumbent upon the General Assembly to provide for a more expeditious resolution.
Seems like there's an increasing trend in pierce the corporate veil suits.
I think that is certainly something that's sought frequently in our courts.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator 45th for a question.
Would the chairman yield, please?
I certainly yield.
Senator, is it not true that probably Georgia has been one of the most aggressive states in the nation in changing our laws, protecting the elderly, and addressing the issue of elder abuse, not only in the general public, but in assisted living, personal care homes, and nursing homes? Is that not true?
I would agree that that is true, and I would also thank the chairlady for her efforts in making that so.
Would you further yield?
I yield.
Would you not agree that in the Health and Human Services Committee that we understood that this is a process and that there were only 2 nay votes against this, and that I believe that all of the senators in here want to be able to protect the elderly? Is that not true?
I believe that's true.
Chair recognizes Senator 28th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one other question along those, Senator, if you'll yield.
I will yield.
This new section in code references intermediate care homes twice, I believe, or several times, but in reference back to the liability, general liability coverage that's required, I don't see the definition for intermediate care home. Do you know that or can you provide that for me? And my concern is, does this capture our smallest caregivers that might provide in-home care, and are we exposing them to a requirement that might be onerous?
Senator, I will confess that I cannot recite the definition off the top of my head, but this would not apply to in-home care, I believe. Intermediate care facility would be as opposed to an advanced nursing home facility with advanced medical care. I still think that we're talking about residential facilities.
Thanks, Senator.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair is none. Report committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put, or the objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 9. This bill having Series constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 991.
House Bill 991 by Representative Hitchens of the 121st and others, or 61st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the OCG relating to ad valorem taxation of property so as to change certain definitions regarding such taxation to provide an effective date to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Finance recommends that this bill do pass, respectfully submitted by Senator Hill the 32nd. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from 6. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have done some great work through the years for our veterans, and this bill just continues that tradition. When you get called overseas to go to Afghanistan or Iraq, sometimes you're not thinking about all of the mundane things here in life that we take for granted, and one of those is paying your property taxes. And so what this bill simply does is it allows you 60 days from the return of your tour to pay your property tax in full, but it waives your fees and late fees. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I will yield the well.
There are no questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree to report of committee which favor pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0. This bill, Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 1028. The senator from the 19th will stand by. 19th.
House Bill 1028 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the OCG relating to general provisions relative to waste management so as to require the Environmental Protection Division of the Department of Natural Resources to provide notice to affected localities upon the occurrence of certain events relating to permitted solid or hazardous waste facilities, to provide for related matters to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Natural Resources and the Environment recommends that this bill do pass by substitute, respectfully submitted by Senator Gannon of the 47th. Mr. President, the Natural Resources and the Environment Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 1028, a bill to be entitled an Act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to solid waste management so as to require the owner or operator of a municipal solid waste landfill to provide notice to the relevant local governing authority upon the occurrence of certain solid waste releases, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Henson of the 41st offers the following amendment, number 1, to the substitute to House Bill 1028 by replacing line 14 with the following: site of such landfill of a containment in. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 19th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill comes as a result of the EPA's decision regarding coal ash, which puts some pressures on some of our landfills to take coal ash as opposed to storing it in lakes or ponds. Folks in the community of Wayne County, where we have a big private landfill, were concerned that there may be some leakage and they not know about it. All this does is require that the landfill, if EPD finds that there is some leakage, that the county, the landfill owners put in the legal organ that there has been a leak that poses a danger to human health. There are no questions. I just saw the amendment. I would oppose the amendment not knowing a little more about it. Mr. President, there are no questions. I'll yield the well.
No questions. Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st to speak to his amendment.
Apologize to the senator from 19th for not talking to him earlier. It's a very good bill. I commend the work of the senator 19th and the House member who has brought it forward. I think it's a very positive thing that we're going to put this, publish it, and get the information out to people. But the concern is that presently, the way it is written, it allows the owner and operator of the solid waste landfill to decide which is on line 14 is to pose a danger to human health. It allows that subjectivity to the owner to decide what releases he wants to talk about and disclose. And I feel it's just a little permissive in allowing them, in some cases, to decide not to follow the other edicts of the statute because they say they did not think it posed a danger to public health or human health. So this would take out that language. When a contamination is present, they should notify the public, and certainly most landfill contaminations would be a danger to human health. So I'll yield for questions. Figured.
Chair recognizes Senator from 47th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator yield?
I yield.
Have you spoken with the folks at EPD about your amendment?
I have not personally talked to them about it.
Well, I have heard from the folks at EPD, and they would oppose your amendment. Said one of the things that, as you are a member of our Natural Resources and Environment Committee, would hope that we could work together to improve the bill, which I thought we were doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the Natural Resources Committee. I appreciate you reaching out to them and getting their opinion. Certainly, if they would like to come forth with another standard, then having the operator decide what's going to pose a threat to public health, it would be helpful. But right now, the way the bill is written, it does allow a lot of opportunity for the owner to make that decision, which I feel is not necessarily in the best interest of all our constituents all the time. So thank you for that help, Senator from 47.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 36th for a question.
Thank you. Does the senator yield?
I yield.
In regards to your amendment, it looks as though what you're attempting to do is to kind of take the judgment call out of the hands of the operator, who would have a vested interest in possibly determining in their own mind that a contaminant didn't pose a danger, and they wouldn't then be required to comply with giving notice. Isn't that
Absolutely. I want to raise the issue to the Senate that there is that subjectivity possibly involved, and that the proper place is maybe not for the owner to be the person deciding whether or not their consideration is to pose a danger to public health is the best way to go.
One could argue that without this amendment, it's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house.
Without this amendment, the bill, I don't think, offers the kind of protection that author and some of us would like to see. Certainly, the bill is an improvement, but it can, by my amendment, I think, be even stronger and better.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th for a question.
Senator Yield.
Senator, my colleague from DeKalb, I'll always yield for your friendly questions.
Mr. Leader, I appreciate that you're concerned about the owner or the operator making this decision, but I think your amendment weakens the situation of public health. And the reason I say that, they've got to notify if the contaminant poses a danger to human health. And your amendment, if you stopped at contaminant, is it not true? And I've talked to the author of the bill, not all contaminants provide a danger to public health. So I think this is stronger with the existing language by you stopping it on the word contaminant. That would be any contaminant. Which
I understand your concern that it's too broad.
it's too broad, because it's my understanding after talking to the author of the bill, because I checked, that there are contaminants that aren't necessarily dangerous to people. So I don't think it's reaching the point, is it not true, of your concern about it's the owner or the operator doing this. I don't think that's common. That's all.
No, thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. And if, but you know, I do think that it is too broad right now, that we need to have a amendment or a fix in this bill. It is a Natural Resources Committee substitute. I do think a standard should be in place that is more proper, but I do think that your point is well taken, and I will withdraw the amendment when I return to my seat.
No more questions, Senator. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 41st.
Mr. President, without objection, I would move to withdraw Amendment 1.
Is there objection? Without objection, amendment will be withdrawn. Now the question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which Farrell pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 55, the nays are 0. This bill, having received Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 31st.
Mr. President, would it be proper to move to reconsider? Because if the sponsor of that bill is not willing to vote for it, I'm not sure I am either.
What happened to the good senator? He was probably being distracted by the senator from the 56th over there, and instead of, voting his machine. All right. Okay, we're going to take our lunch break now. I don't know if the lunch is in the anteroom now, but we have already taken up 12 bills, 12 House bills that have been passed through the state Senate by this hour. And I don't know how many the House has taken up, but I doubt it's that many Senate bills. So we'll take our lunch break, and we'll be prepared and ready to be back here at 1:30.